Welcome to Week 6. This week we'll be discussing grant reports. Specifically, what are grant reports, why they are important, and we will take a look at a few standardized reports you will likely see if you are working with federal reporting. Readings for this week are posted in Moodle, and assignments include a discussion forum, quiz, and assignment number 6, where you will draft a progress report for the grantor. Why do we have to report on grant projects? Who are the reports for? Who writes the reports? And who reads them? Does anyone actually read them? These are all valid questions. Grant reports are usually required deliverables of a grant-funded project for a number of reasons. One of the most important reasons is that they are used to track project progress. When grantors make grant awards, they are investing their resources in a project because they found merit in the submitted proposal. So they want the project to be successful, just like the grantee does. Reporting requirements are often included in the grant agreement as a method for grantees to share their progress within the project's scope of work, and for grantors to learn about the progress. Reports also provide a tool to review that grant funds are being spent for the intended purposes. Reports help to keep the grantee accountable to the purpose or intent of the project, and accountable to the guidelines of the grant project. From submitted reports, grantors can review and see if a grantee is working towards the goals of a project. They help monitor if the grantee has completed activities that they said they were going to do in the grant proposal. Grant reporting is often used as a method to monitor compliance within the guidelines and outcomes specific to grant-funded projects. Some sort of reporting will be required for almost all grant-funded projects, whether it's an infrastructure project, constructing a new cultural center, or a community suicide prevention program. Grant reporting through a narrative progress report and financial report provides a way to ensure the grant project is both compliant and progressing towards the end goal or goals. Grant reporting requirements vary, but the required combination of progress and financial reporting provides the grantor the opportunity to review implemented activities and funds expended on the grant project. Sometimes submitted grant reports are publicly shared or accessible to review. This helps promote the concept of transparency. Merriam-Webster defines being transparent as being free from pretense or deceit. Being transparent with grant reporting helps demonstrate that your organization is implementing project activities with awarded funds in a way that aligns with the intent of the program. Basically, you're doing what you should be doing with grant funds, and grant funds are being spent as allowed under the funding guidelines. That's not to say that there will not be challenges, and these challenges can be, and should be in many circumstances, included in your progress reports. Sharing the challenges faced within your project helps to keep open and honest lines of communication between grantors and grantees to make the adjustments needed to move towards the goals of the project. There are two main types of reports that are used for monitoring grant-funded projects: a progress report or a narrative report, and a financial report. Both the progress and the financial report can be generated in many different formats and vary in length from a short synopsis to an extensive explanation of project activities. Some funders will provide specific templates for grant reporting, while others leave it up to the grantee to organize and format. Grant project reports are required on various timelines as well. Some projects will only require one final report once all project activities are complete, while others will request reports throughout the project period to help track progress. The most common report intervals throughout a grant period are quarterly, semi-annual, or annual report schedules. Program directors should make sure they know this schedule. Put due dates in a calendar, set reminders, share with others who need to know these dates as well, like the finance office, who will likely help with the financial report. You will develop better, more comprehensive reports when you are working towards a due date instead of scrambling to put something together on the due date. Again, every grantor will request varying report information, so each report will be a bit different. There are typical report sections that grantees will see across programs. Let's talk through some typical main sections. Project summary or synopsis. This introductory section is just that, a summary of the project to date. It often outlines the overall goal of the project and may summarize progress at the time of the report. Project progress and achievements. This section details work that has been completed or activities that are in progress towards the goals and objectives of the project. Some reports will structure this section to align with the project timeline that was submitted with the proposal. This section highlights all the work that the project has accomplished. Challenges. Some report templates will have a section specific to identifying project implementation challenges. While this part of the narrative could roll up into another section, either way, it's important to include any challenges that the project has encountered. This is not a reflection of poor project management, albeit that can certainly be the reason behind some project challenges. You don't need to lie to grantors here. There will be challenges within almost all programs. It's better to address the challenges and highlight steps to be implemented to overcome them. By addressing challenges and presenting steps to address the issue, projects demonstrate to grantors that they have the capacity and the expertise to appropriately respond. Outcomes. Reporting on specific outcomes that are outlined in the project proposal may be included in the project achievement section, but they can also be organized into a standalone section to highlight specific measurable objectives. For example, a project that delivers meals to community elders may have included the following outcome. Meals will be delivered to 50 new elder homes within the first 6 months of project implementation. In this section, report on your progress here. Maybe you have accomplished this. If not, state so with an explanation of why not, and possibly the number of new homes that have been delivered to. You can often cut and paste the objectives and outcome sections from your proposal into this report section to structure the narrative here. It is also common to be formatted into a table. Timeline. Addressing the project timeline is a way to show grantors that you are implementing the project with an understanding of the approved project period. This section can highlight work that is in progress and work that is planned in the next reporting period or for the remainder of the project. You can also include adjustments to the original timeline as needed by the project. Just make sure to include a justification for timeline revisions. Data. Specific data may be included in the outcome section, but it could also be reported out independently. This could be data gathered from research out in the field, that is tracking fish migration patterns, or data from an employee satisfaction surveys distributed after a professional development session at BMCC. The data is obviously specific to the project, if this is even relevant to the project. Reporting on collected data is another way to show project progress. Lessons learned. A lessons learned section is one that might be more typical in a final report, but this section is intended to highlight what worked, what didn't, how to adjust, and how to improve. Attachments. In addition to the progress narrative and financial reports, projects can often submit additional information as an attachment or addendum to the main report. Common additions include project photos, interviews, developed marketing materials, or other reports relevant to the project. This is to help show all the work that has been done and the impact of the project. Grantors love to see how their funds are impacting the target population, and sometimes a picture is even better at doing this than a long narrative description. The progress report guidelines you see here are from the Gates Foundation. This foundation provides grantees with clear instructions and a template to complete with the project progress information. Note the sections in this template align with the main sections that we just discussed. Financial reports might be a little less exciting than a narrative progress report of all of the project activities and accomplishments, but they are just as important, and in some instances, the most important. A financial report is a summary of grant project expenditures. They show how the grant funds have been spent and managed within a specific time period. These reports can also be requested in many different formats. Financial reports for grant projects are often requested on the same schedule as the progress reports. However, there are instances where the progress and financial reports will be on different schedules. Let's talk through the typical financial report sections and documents that comprise financial reporting. Revenue. The revenue section of the financial report shows the total amount that has been received from the grantor. This section could also include revenue received from other sources that are supporting the project. This could also include a summary of match contributions from the grantee or other project supporter. Expenses or expenditures. The grant expenditures include a breakdown of all charges made to the grant budget. These are usually organized into multiple categories. Common expenditure categories include personnel cost, equipment, supplies, travel, training, and other direct project costs. Budget v. actual. A budget versus actual comparison is a summary that shows the original grant budget by category and the actual expenditures within the same categories. This type of report also usually includes the difference between the original approved budget and the actual expenditures incurred during the reporting period. This section highlights any variance between the planned budget and the actual spending. This section can be helpful in managing grant budgets as it shows the remaining amount available to spend in each category. Matching funds. If the original project budget includes a match contribution, this contribution can be summarized in a separate section of the financial report. Indirect costs. If the grant budget supports indirect expenses, then these expenses will be summarized in a separate line item. Indirect expenses are often calculated at a set percentage of a base rate. Each grantor and grantee have different rates in which indirect costs can be charged. Program directors should understand how this is calculated for the program they are working with. Invoices, receipts, and other documentation. Supporting documentation such as invoices, receipts, match contributions, and other financial backup may be required as part of the financial report. This documentation shows the transactions within the organization's accounting system. Even if the grantor does not ask for such backup documentation, it is good practice to ensure that this documentation is in the grant file or easily accessible for future reference and for audit purposes. Narrative explanation. Sometimes it is necessary to provide an explanation of the expenditures with the financial report. That really is just a summary of numbers. A financial narrative allows the grantee to provide support context surrounding the financial data that's submitted. The financial report guidelines you see here are also from the Gates Foundation. Again, this foundation provides grantees with clear instructions and a template to complete with the project financial information. Take a minute here to review. As with all other aspects of the grant process, reporting requirements vary widely. As stated earlier in this lecture, some funders require long narrative progress reports, while others prefer short summaries in a paragraph or two. Some funders will provide detailed instructions of report expectations along with report templates, while others will provide nothing but a due date. It is a responsibility of the grantee to understand what is expected and part of this process is communicating with funders. In almost all cases, grantors will want to help grantees be successful and compliant, and will clarify all reporting questions. Federal grant reporting may require additional reports than the standard progress report, and it can be cumbersome and overwhelming as it often involves extensive documentation and compliance with various regulations. The reporting guidelines can be difficult to understand and may require additional documentation. However, many of the federal reports have standard templates or develop forms that grantees fill in to meet reporting requirements. And the program officers of federal grant programs are usually just as helpful in clarifying questions and providing guidance to support report completion. Many federal forms will start with an SF, followed by a number associated with the specific form. The SF here is an abbreviation for standard form. You see here a list of various federal report forms that projects may encounter. Each form usually comes with a set of instructions as well. Two of the standard grant reports that grantees will see most often in their report requirements are the financial forms, the SF-270 and the SF-425. The SF-270 is the request for advance or reimbursement form and is used to request advances or reimbursement on federally funded programs. Again, every project is different, and only projects set up with the advance payment or reimbursement method will require an SF-270. The SF-425 Federal Financial Report is the most common federal financial report and is a report that all grantees will be required to complete at some point in the project period of a federal award, at a minimum as a final financial report. This report is referred to as the SF-425 and as the Federal Financial Report, the FFR. This report serves as a tool to monitor and assess the financial status of grant-funded projects. The SF-425 is a report that projects usually work with their business office or finance office to complete. The SF-425 has the following main sections. General information, lines 1 through 9. The top of the form includes general information about the grantee and the individual award, including the grantee name, address, contact information, grant number, and reporting period covered by the report. Funds received and disbursed, lines 10, A through C. This section reports the cash received from the grantor, the total disbursed, and the difference between the two figures. Federal expenditures, lines 10, D through H. This section reports the total funds authorized or the total of the grant award. Note that the total amount received up to a certain date may be different from the total authorized. This section also reports the total amount of expenditures within the project period. The unobligated balance. Line 10H shows the remaining grant funds that have not been spent or are not in the process of being expended. Recipient share, lines 10, L through K. This section includes any match contribution from the grantee. Program income, line 10, L through O. This section reports any program income that has been earned. Not all programs, not very many grant programs actually, will have income to report here. Indirect, line 11. This section reports how the grantee calculates the indirect expenses. This will vary across projects. Federal grant managers will also need to be familiar with the Federal Funding Accountability and Transparency Act, or FFATA. This is a government-wide reporting system that discloses information on all federal grant awards in the usaspending.gov website. This site will show information on each federal award recipient, the grantee. The intent of this act is to show transparency within federal funding. Federal agencies publicly show who they may grant awards to, and for how much. Further, if the grantee spends funds on subawards, the main grantee, called the prime awardee, is required to post reports on this site specific to their subawards. This is called the FFATA Subaward Reporting System, the FSRS. Only subawards in the amount of $25,000 or more must be reported through the FSRS site.